Terrorism's scary, right? And we're all concerned about it. We're concerned about what we hear in the news about ISIS recruiting. The reality is it's just a lot more complex, like most problems out there, and that it's often overstated, that the threat is overstated for lots of reasons. There's a big counterterrorism machine that's been built up since 9/11, which has actually been incredibly effective at stopping a lot of threats. So much so that a lot of politicians and people inside the system don't actually talk about how successful it's been, because they're afraid of being seen to be soft on terrorism and minimizing the threat.
This risk of overreacting and underreacting.
Right.
And you have to find that balance. But along the way, people's lives are impacted and affected.
Of course, I mean, people who are victims of terrorism attacks, I mean, for them, every attack is a 9/11. Of course. So I look at San Bernardino, it all affected us.
Right.
So
I mean, this comes out right after Paris and San Bernardino, and it reminds us you can't rest.
Of course you can't rest. And I mean, but, and that's right. And every act is unfathomable and incredibly tragic. And yet, if we look at what's happened since 9/11, there have been roughly 50 Americans killed inside the U.S. by jihadi terrorists. I think if after the days after 9/11, if we had all said only 50 Americans are going to die over the next 15 years from this, we would have thought actually the threat would be a lot worse.
Right. One of the great fears is that it's domestic now. Because of social media, people are being recruited in every which way.
And no one knows about it until the aftermath.
Well, there are a couple of things here, because you personalize this. One of them is one of the most hated men in America, and that's Nidal Hassan, who at Fort Hood, who killed all those people. And yet you present him in a certain way where you say, oh, he's like a guy. You know, we have a certain poster image of him. He's a guy. Listen to him talk. He seems reasonable. How did this happen? You have his cousin on, who's the world's most reasonable person, trying to explain it.
Yeah, I mean, that's right. I mean, and actually his cousin grew up with Nidal like brothers. And they really had, you know, they're from an incredibly successful family in Northern Virginia. They kind of lived the American dream, or had that all presented to them. One cousin went a certain path. The other, Nidal, was an army psychiatrist, looked to be very successful, but he had these what many people think were psychological problems that then led to searching for something bigger, some meaning in his life, and that led him on this path of ultimately a terrorist act. But at its core, many people in the counterterrorism world thought actually he was more psychologically deranged rather than a political terrorist.
But it attached to political terrorism.
Attached to, of course he did. And then he went on Fort Hood in uniform and to attack active duty service.
We don't have that much time left. I do want to mention that there's a family you present whose son, brother, etc., is in prison now. You present the family. You met that family too.
Right.
They're like the most likable people. There's a sister there who could be a movie star.
Gorgeous girl.
Yes.
Helped raise her brother.
Yes.
Now he's in jail.
Yes, that's
She
right.
tries to explain what happened.
Will critics say of you, hey, you're going too easy on all these people, you're making them too human?
I mean, they may say that. I mean, my previous film was about the hunt for bin Laden called Manhunt. That was a very clear objective. Avenge 9/11. This is just a lot more complicated.
There are more nuances
There's
here.
just more nuances, and I think you got to present it in a nuanced way. And I don't think it's soft. I mean, we have a very sort of strong counterterrorism machine in this country, which does a very good job. The threat is real, but we also have to keep it in perspective.
All right, thank you so much. The
Fascinating
HBO
documentary
film,
really well
Homegrown, The Counterterror Dilemma, will debut Monday night at 9 o'clock on HBO. Greg, thanks for
Very
coming.
nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for coming.
All right, still